Marcus Alvarez glanced at the polished marble floor of the Sterling Enterprises lobby and felt his heart skip a beat. He had walked into many grand halls in his life, but none felt quite as big or as intimidating as this one, with the high ceilings. Arched above him like a sky without end, and soft lights glowed in golden tones along the walls. Behind him, his 8-year-old daughter Lily clutched his hand, her small fingers warm against his palm. He squeezed gently to remind himself that he was here for her. He checked his watch again, though he knew it would not help. His fingers tapped lightly against the black leather strap, a habit he could not break. Weeks of preparation had led to this night, a corporate gala where Lily would play piano in front of hundreds of guests. This event promised applause for her talent, but also the chance of embarrassment for both of them if something went wrong. Marcus swallowed hard and straightened his worn jacket. It had seen better days, with faint creases running down the sleeves, like soft rivers of memory. He thought of his life before Lily was born, of concerts in packed halls where his name was whispered in respectful tones. He had been a rising star, a pianist with a bright future. Then came Lily, and everything changed. He had traded the limelight for late-night studies, rocking her to sleep while notes of lullabies drifted from his fingertips on a home keyboard. He had become her teacher, her guardian, her safe place. Music had become quiet for him, a private conversation with the empty room. Yet now here he stood, on the cusp of blending past and present, ready to play again, at least for one song. He took a slow breath and looked at Lily's face. Her eyes were wide and shining, reflecting the chandeliers. Overhead, her curls bounced when she blinked. She had rehearsed for weeks, her small frame bent over the keys of their old upright piano at home. He had watched her every step, guiding her when she hesitated, encouraging her when she shied away. Marcus imagined how this night would look to those around him, men in tailored suits and women in elegant dresses, their laughter drifting down from the balconies. A red carpet stretched from the entrance to a stage where a grand piano stood like a promise. He could nearly hear the tinkling of crystal glasses as waiters walked past with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. He blamed none of it. He understood that the world he moved through now was different. He was no longer Ferrara's prodigy, but a single dad who worked 2 jobs to pay the rent and Lily's piano lessons. He wove hope into each day, reminding himself that one good moment could change everything. They moved forward, Lily's hand in his, soft steps echoing on the marble. He recalled the invitation letter, elegant script printed on thick paper. Sterling Enterprises had asked for performers to showcase local talent. Lily's school had recommended her after a small recital in the park. When he first read the letter, he felt a flicker of joy, then a wave of doubt. Could a simple father-daughter team stand among corporate guests and music lovers? Could he find the strength to play again after so many years? He had argued with himself for days, but Lily's excitement had won out. She dreamed of this night. He would do anything to help her. As they reached the guest area, a hush fell over the crowd. Eyes turned toward, Lily clutching his hand, and a few whispers followed. He noticed curious glances, some kind, some dismissive. A tall man in a dark suit nudged his companion and nodded toward Marcus. The companion leaned in and laughed softly. Lily stiffened at the sound, but Marcus lifted his chin and smiled reassuringly at her. He whispered, "We've got this, kiddo." She gave him a small nod, her courage rising. Just then, a woman in a crisp gray dress swept by on high heels, her hair tied back in a neat bun. She carried herself with the ease of someone used to attention. He guessed she was Victoria Sterling, the CEO herself. She paused at a nearby column and watched Marcus and Lily with a curious smile. He felt her gaze like a spot of light on his back. He turned slightly and caught her eyes. She arched an eyebrow, looked down, embarrassed to meet her scrutiny. He knew she had every right to wonder why this simple-looking man was here. Their world was built on prestige and wealth. He had neither. He watched as Victoria laughed, a quick, sharp sound, and he felt the room shift around him. His breathing grew shallow. He held Lily's hand tighter. She squeezed back, steadying her own nerves. A waiter passed with a tray of sparkling water. He took a glass and offered it to Lily. She took a small sip, then passed it back. he said. The glass aside and whispered, "Tell me one more time who you're playing for." She swallowed and looked up at him, her voice quiet but firm. "For you, Dad," she said, "and for the people who believe good music matters." He felt his throat tighten. He wanted to tell her how proud he was, but words caught in his chest. He gave her a quick nod and patted her hand. A soft chime sounded, announcing that the first set was about to begin. Marcus led Lily toward the stage entrance. The crowd parted for them, and he felt a mix of fear and determination. He could almost see himself 10 years ago walking onto similar stages, but with confidence. Now he moved slowly, each step measured. He heard muted conversations, someone wondering if the pianist had forgotten their invitation. Another whisper, "I hope this isn't a mistake." He reached the edge of the stage, where a stagehand guided them to their marks. The grand piano was bathed in gentle light, its glossy surface reflecting Lily's pale dress. Marcus slid onto the bench, Lily beside him. He gently placed her hand on the ivory keys. She glanced at him, excitement and nerves flickering in her eyes. He placed his hands on the keys as well. Pointing to the middle C, a hush fell over the room. The guests leaned forward. Lily drew a breath and started the simple melody for their opening piece, a duet of childhood memories and hope. Marcus joined in, his fingers finding the notes as if they were old friends. He felt the music come alive under his touch, carrying him back to a time when applause filled concert halls. He closed his eyes, letting the familiar patterns flow. Behind the curtain, Victoria Sterling watched with a thoughtful expression. Her laughter had died away into silence when the music began. She recognized the skill and emotion woven into each chord. She had heard many performers before, but something about this father and daughter playing together stirred something unexpected. She caught herself gripping the column as the melody grew richer. On stage, Marcus and Lily moved as one. Each note was a step toward redemption for him, and a shining moment for her. The audience sat in rapt attention, surprised by the depth of feeling in this simple piece. Marcus felt a swell of pride for his daughter and a rekindled spark for himself. The sound of their duet rippled through the grand hall, turning curiosity into admiration. By the time the piece ended, the final chord lingered in the air like an echo of hope. Marcus and Lily sat still for a moment, letting the silence speak. For the power of their music, then a single clap rang out. Few more joined in until the room burst into applause. Marcus opened his eyes and saw Lily's face light up with joy. He smiled back, feeling the weight of the world lift just a little. As they rose from the bench, Marcus looked into the crowd. He spotted Victoria Sterling stepping forward, her expression one of genuine respect. The moment of laughter he had felt earlier seemed like a distant memory. In its place stood something far more meaningful. The understanding that true talent and love for music could transcend status and expectation. Marcus took Lily's hand and led her off the stage. He whispered, "You did it." She leaned up and hugged him, her arms wrapped around his neck. He held her tight, knowing that this night would change both their lives forever. Backstage felt different from the warm glow of the stage lights. The curtains closed softly behind Marcus and Lily, and the sudden hush made their hearts beat faster. Marcus guided his daughter into the dim corridor, where a few stagehands moved. Quietly, their faces calm and professional. Lily's small hand trembled in his as she looked up at him. He knelt and brushed a curl from her forehead. "You did wonderfully out there," he whispered. "Hold your head high." She offered him a shy smile, but her eyes still carried uncertainty. They turned a corner and saw a cluster of musicians packing up instruments from the earlier set. A violinist gave Lily an encouraging nod, and a cellist waved at Marcus. It felt good to be among people who understood music's power. Lily straightened her back and took a steadying breath. Marcus led her past a row of folding chairs to a small waiting area lined with mirrors. On a low table sat water bottles and plates of fruit. He handed Lily a bottle, and she drank half in one gulp. As she set the bottle down, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Victoria Sterling appeared at the end of the corridor, her gray dress now without the stiff posture of a CEO. Greeting guests, she crossed the floor with purposeful strides. Marcus rose to greet her, smoothing his jacket, while Lily stood quietly by his side. "Mr. Alvarez," Victoria said, her tone gentle yet clear. May I speak with you for a moment? Marcus nodded, inviting her closer. Lily took a step back, clutching her bottled water, but listening. I want to apologize for my laughter. When I first saw you in the lobby, Victoria began, it was thoughtless of me. I judged you by how you looked, and that was wrong. Marcus felt surprise flutter in his chest. He opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand. Please, let me finish. Your performance just now showed me something I almost missed. Music isn't about status or wealth. It's about heart and story. She turned slightly and looked at Lily. Miss Alvarez, your duet with your father was beautiful. Thank you. For sharing it, Lily blinked, then gave a small nod. Marcus cleared his throat. Thank you, Miss Sterling. That means a lot. He felt gratitude and relief bloom inside him. To be seen and respected by someone like Victoria felt like a warm sunrise after a long night. Victoria glanced around as if testing the air. I would like to offer you both some backstage refreshments, and I'd love to hear more about your musical journey. Would you join me in the green room over there? She pointed toward a door with a small sign reading green room. Looked at Lily. She hesitated, her gaze flicking to the door and back to him. He smiled. Let's go say hello. Inside the small green room, soft couches lined the walls, and a low coffee table held bottled water, tea, and light snacks. A few other performers had gathered, chatting quietly. Marcus led Lily to an empty couch and sat beside her. Victoria took the seat opposite them and poured 3 glasses of water. As they sipped, Victoria asked, Your daughter's voice is so pure. How long has she been singing? Marcus exchanged a look with Lily. She swallowed and answered, About 2 years. I started teaching her on our old piano at home. Victoria nodded and turned to Marcus. And were you always a pianist? He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. I was once a concert pianist, he said softly. I performed in big halls, touring in different cities. But when Lily was born, I chose to stay home with her. I taught at small studios and played for my own joy. I never thought I'd play in a big hall again. Victoria listened carefully, her eyes gentle. You'd make a great team. Your love for each other shows in your music. She leaned back and sighed. I admit, I take these events for granted sometimes. I see talent as a luxury until moments like this remind me why we celebrate art at all. Lily's shoulders relaxed, and she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She looked at her father, pride shining in her eyes. Marcus felt a warm glow. The night that had begun in fear was transforming into something far more meaningful. Victoria glanced at her watch. I'm due back on stage soon to introduce the next speaker. But before I go, I have one more idea. Sterling Enterprises runs a music outreach program for local schools. We focus on places where arts funding is low. I think your story or journey could inspire others. Would you consider working with us to bring music to more children? Marcus felt his throat tighten. He thought of Lily's school, where music class happened only once a month. He remembered the joy on her face when she could practice at home. I'd be honored, he said. Lily's eyes widened, and she gave a little jump of excitement. Victoria smiled warmly. Wonderful. We can talk details tomorrow. For now, enjoy the rest of the evening. She stood, smoothing her dress. Thank you both for reminding me why music matters. Marcus stood too, and Lily hopped up beside him. He bowed his head slightly to Victoria. Thank you for believing in us. Victoria nodded and left the room, her heels clicking softly against the floor.
Off.
After the door closed, Lily let out a breath she seemed to have been holding. Dad, did you hear that? We could help kids learn music. She bounced. On her toes, Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Yes, sweetheart, we can share what we love with others. They settled back onto the couch and reached for the snacks. Lily picked up a piece of melon and tasted it. It's so sweet, she said. Marcus laughed and took a grape. Like tonight, he replied. Just then, a stagehand peeked in. 5 minutes till the next set, Mr. Alvarez. Marcus nodded. He glanced at Lily. Ready for round 2? She wiped her mouth with a napkin and stood tall. Ready. They walked back toward the stage entrance. Lily's confidence had grown, and the memory of her father's presence made her feel strong. Marcus slipped his hand into hers. As they passed the open doorway, he could see the crowd from behind the curtain, and he smiled. They were no longer newcomers. They were performers, welcome in this grand hall. Outside, the guests leaned in toward the stage. Marcus and Lily stepped into the light. Lily took a quick glance at her father. He winked. She sat at the piano bench, and Marcus stood beside her, ready to play the second piece. This time, they would play together again, two hearts beating in time, sharing music that came from love and hope. And somewhere in the audience, Victoria. Sterling watched, her earlier doubts melted by the truth of their gift. Tonight she understood that talent could come from anywhere, and that sometimes the most important stories were written in the spaces between notes. Marcus felt a gentle tug on his sleeve as he and Lily stepped back onto the stage. The golden lights glinted off the polished piano, and he could see the audience once more, faces turned toward them with eager curiosity. Lily sat down with grace. Beyond her years, Marcus settled beside her, ready to play their second piece. His heart pounded, but this time it was not fear, it was excitement. Lily glanced at him and offered a small, determined smile. He returned it, then nodded to the sound technician, who dimmed the house lights and raised the stage lamps. A hush fell over the room so deep that Marcus could hear his own breath. He placed his hands on the piano keys, feeling their cool smoothness. Under his fingertips, they began with a slow introduction, a soft legato melody that wove through the air like a gentle breeze. Lily's small hand pressed the high notes, and Marcus's larger hand filled in the richer tones below. The contrast of their styles, her bright, clear tones and his warm, rounded chords, created a tapestry of sound that held the audience's attention. He watched the silhouettes in the front row lean forward, and he felt the older couple in the center nodding in time with the music. Midway through the piece, Lily's eyes flicked to the back of the hall, where Victoria Sterling sat. Her posture was relaxed but attentive, her expression thoughtful. Marcus knew that her presence here meant more than a passing courtesy. She had taken a genuine interest in their story. He felt a surge of gratitude that she had seen their worth beyond her first impression. The music shifted. Marcus guided Lily through a more complex passage, a fast arpeggio that required both precision and emotion. Counted silently in his mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lily followed his lead. Her fingers moved confidently, even as the notes flew at a quicker pace. The audience held their breath, aware of the technical challenge this duet presented. Suddenly, a single sharp note rang out. Lily's finger had slipped. The discordant tone cut through the melody, and for a moment, Marcus worried she might freeze. The audience tensed, waiting to see what would happen. In that heartbeat, Lily looked at her father, her eyes wide. Marcus leaned close and whispered in her mind, "It's okay." He adjusted his own phrasing, softening around the mistake, weaving the error into the music as if it were meant to be there. Lily followed his lead. She lifted her hand and eased into a new chord, returning seamlessly to the melody. A murmur of relief ran through the audience, quickly replaced by admiration. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest as they continued together, stronger for having overcome the slip. Music, he realized, was not just about perfection, but about resilience and connection. They built toward the climax, Lily's high notes ascending, like birds taking flight, Marcus's rich bass providing steady wings beneath. Every ear was tuned to their harmony. He watched shadows dance across the balcony walls, and he imagined how the notes must look as they rippled through the hall. It was as though the room itself breathed with them, lifted by their song. When they reached the final chord, Marcus and Lily paused, letting it resonate. The silence held, filled with the echo of what had come before. Then applause erupted louder, this time more heartfelt. Marcus rose from the bench, lifting Lily onto her feet. She beamed, cheeks flushed with joy. They bowed together, their hands clasped, and the audience rose as one, giving them a standing ovation. Backstage, the energy was electric. Other performers peeked out from behind curtains and smiled. A young cellist waved, and a pianist offered. A thumbs up. Marcus guided Lily off the stage and into the dim hallway. She was shaking with excitement, her eyes shining brighter than any spotlight. A stagehand handed them 2 towels and a bottle of water. Lily took a sip, then wrapped the towel around her neck. She looked at her father. "We did it again," she whispered. Marcus nodded, pride and relief mingling in his voice. "You were amazing. You handled that slip like a true musician." Lily's face turned thoughtful. "I was scared, but you helped me." Marcus shrugged gently. "Music is like life. Sometimes we make mistakes. What matters is how we keep going." She smiled and hugged him. He felt a warmth spread through him, stronger than any applause. They followed a narrow corridor toward the VIP lounges, where a small reception was forming. Victoria Sterling emerged to meet them, her heels clicking softly on the wooden floor. She wore a fresh dress for the second half of the evening, but her welcoming smile was the same. "That was breathtaking," she said, her voice sincere. She looked at Lily, then at Marcus. "Your teamwork on stage was inspiring. You turned a moment of doubt into something beautiful." Lily blushed and looked down. Mark smiled. "Thank you, Miss Sterling. It was scary, but I knew Lily could handle it." Victoria turned to a nearby assistant. "Please get Mr. and Miss Alvarez to plates of hors d'oeuvres and some fresh juice." The assistant nodded and hurried off. Victoria then guided them to a small grouping of plush chairs. "Please, have a seat and enjoy." They settled in as waiters circulated with trays of canapes and sparkling juice. Lily reached for a piece of melon and chewed thoughtfully. Marcus took a small quiche and nodded his thanks to the waiter. He took a sip of juice, the cool sweetness soothing his parched throat. Victoria leaned forward. "I've been thinking about your story," she said. "It reminds me of my own childhood. My mother was a pianist too, and she taught me that music could speak when words failed." Marcus listened, intrigued by this personal glimpse. Victoria continued, "My parents had little money, but the piano in our living room felt like a treasure. I know what it means to fight for a dream." Lily looked up, surprise shining in her eyes. "You played piano?" she asked shyly. Victoria nodded. "Yes, I practiced every day. But business called me, and I set the piano aside. Tonight, watching you two, I felt that old spark again." She smiled at Marcus. "Thank you for reminding me of something important." Marcus felt a wave of respect for her. She could have been just the distant CEO, but instead, she spoke from the heart. He realized her journey, like theirs, was full of choices and sacrifices. "We're honored to share our music with you," he said. "I'm glad it stirred memories." They fell into easy conversation, talking about favorite pieces, concert memories, and the power of music to heal. Each answer brought them closer. Lily giggled when Victoria described practicing scales as a child. Marcus shared a story of playing for charity events long ago. Time passed swiftly. The sound of guests arriving for the next session drifted through the open door. Victoria checked her watch. "I must introduce the evening's keynote speaker soon," she said. She turned to them both. "But before I go, I want to ask you something." She paused, her gaze thoughtful. "Would you be willing to host a small recital in our company's music outreach program next month? It's just you two, and maybe a few other students?" Marcus looked at Lily. Her eyes widened with excitement. He nodded. "We'd love to." Darius' face lit up. "Excellent. I'll have my assistant contact you with dates." She stood and offered her hand. Marcus rose and shook it warmly. Lily stood and gave Victoria a quick hug. The CEO laughed softly and patted her on the head. As Victoria turned to leave, Marcus and Lily exchanged a look of wonder. "Dad," Lily said softly, "everything is happening so fast." Marcus knelt down to her level. "Good things often do, but no matter what happens next, remember this night. You faced fear, you made music, and you moved hearts." Lily nodded and linked her arm through his. They stepped back into the hallway, passing groups of guests, now returning to their seats for speeches and presentations. Marcus led Lily toward a side entrance, where a small stairwell led back to the main lobby. On the descent, Marcus felt a mixture of exhilaration and quiet reflection. He thought about how far they had come from a dusty old piano and a cramped apartment to this grand hall, filled with people moved by their music. He carried a renewed sense of purpose, to reclaim his love for performance, and to share it with Lily every step of the way. They reached the lobby's lower level. Lily stopped to look around. The chandeliers glowed like stars overhead, and the polished floor reflected them both. She took a deep breath. "What will we play next?" she asked. Marcus smiled. Our final piece will be something specialer, piece we create together. Right here on stage?" Lily's eyes shone with anticipation. "Together?" she asked. "Together," he confirmed. "We'll improvise a song that tells our story, your journey, my journey, and how we found each other in music." Lily smiled broadly. "I can't wait." They climbed the final steps back to stage level. Marcus felt the soft hum of the crowd beyond the curtain. He placed one hand on Lily's shoulder. "Ready for the grand finale?" Lily took his hand. "Ready." They exchanged a confident look and stepped toward the curtain's edge. Behind them, Victoria watched from the VIP section, anticipation flickering in her eyes. In a few moments, Marcus and Lily would create something never heard before, melody shaped by love, courage, and the unspoken bond between father and daughter. The audience waited, unaware that they were about to witness a moment of true musical magic. They stepped back onto the stage as the lights shifted to a warm glow. Marcus pressed his hand gently on Lily's back, and she smiled up at him with bright eyes. This was the moment they had both been waiting for. Their grand finale, a song, made entirely by them in front of the crowd. Marcus took a deep breath and sat at the piano bench. Lily settled beside him, her small fingers hovering over the keys. The hall fell silent, the audience leaning forward in anticipation. Marcus began. With a soft chord in the lower register, a quiet heartbeat echoing through the wood of the piano, Lily echoed with a high, gentle arpeggio like a bird greeting the morning sky. The notes met and wove together, forming a melody neither had practiced before. Marcus felt the rhythm in his chest and guided Lily's hand, nodding once to let her know they were in sync. She nodded back, her curls swinging lightly, and pressed a chord that shimmered in the air. They built slowly. Marcus played a steady bass line, each note deliberate and calm. Lily's higher notes fluttered above, playful and curious. The music felt like a conversation, each phrase a question and answer. They moved through gentle rises and falls, discovering new patterns in the moment. The audience sat in rapt attention, sensing the magic of creation unfolding live. Midway through, Marcus shifted the chord progression, moving into a minor key that carried a wistful emotion. Lily caught the change instantly, her expression softening with each note she chose. She added a simple trill, and Marcus supported her with warm harmonies. The hall seemed to breathe with them as the melody deepened. It was a moment of pure connection, father and daughter sharing a piece of their souls through music. Marcus glanced at Lily's face. She was focused but smiling, her eyes shining with joy. He thought of the long days of practice, of the times she had grown frustrated with a tricky passage. He knew that improvisation could be scary, but she was fearless now. He felt pride swell in his chest. This song belonged to them alone, a testament to their trust and love. As they neared the song's climax, Marcus counted in his mind and cued. Lily, with a gentle nod, she responded with a bright chord that lifted the melody higher. Marcus followed with a bold flourish in the accompaniment, filling the hall with rich resonance. The music rose like sunlight breaking through clouds. Guests leaned forward, some closing their eyes to feel each note more deeply. Then, without warning, Lily improvised a delicate countermelody. It danced above Marcus's chords like a silver thread weaving through gold. The contrast was beautiful, the strength of his bass supporting her graceful melody. Up on her idea and wove it into the harmony. It felt like a conversation between two hearts, speaking in the language of sound. When they reached the final measure, Marcus held a long, resonant chord. Lily added a high, clear note on top. They released the keys together and sat in silence for a heartbeat. The room held its breath, suspended in the tension of the last. Notes fading echo. Then applause thundered through the hall. It started with a few claps, then swelled into a standing ovation. Marcus stood and lifted Lily onto her feet. She beamed as the crowd cheered and whistled. He raised her hand in the air, and the guests applauded even louder, their admiration genuine. Backstage, the hallway buzzed with excitement. Performers peeked from behind curtains offering congratulations. Marcus and Lily walked through the throng, smiling and nodding. Lily whispered, "That felt like flying." Marcus laughed softly. Didn't it? They reached the VIP reception area, where Victoria Sterling stood awaiting them. Her face was alight with enthusiasm. She clapped her hands together. "That was extraordinary," she said. "I have never seen anything like it. You two created something so beautiful on the spot." Lily's cheeks pinked with pride. Marcus thanked her, his voice warm. "You just followed the music." Victoria nodded. "You to remind me why we do this work. Talent and passion can come from anywhere. And tonight you proved that." She gestured to a nearby table filled with refreshments. "Please join us for a moment. I want to introduce you to someone." They followed her to the table, where a short, friendly-looking man in a crisp shirt waited. He extended his hand. "Mr. Alvarez, Miss Alvarez, I'm Daniel Lee, Director of the Sterling Music Outreach Foundation. We saw your performance tonight, and were deeply moved. We'd like to offer you both a residency in our program teaching young students and performing occasional recitals." Marcus felt his heart skip. He looked at Lily. Her eyes were wide with excitement. "A residency," he echoed. Daniel nodded. "Yes. We'd love for you to design a small curriculum teaching 4 to 6 children at a time, sharing your skills and story." He paused, seeing Marcus's hesitation. "I understand time is precious, but we can be flexible." Marcus thought of the old piano in their apartment, of the neighborhood kids who stopped by to listen. He imagined teaching them, helping them find their own voices. He looked at Lily and saw her nodding eagerly. Took a breath. "We'd be honored," he said. Daniel smiled and shook his hand. Lily hugged Marcus's arm tightly, her joy palpable. Victoria clapped her hands lightly. "We'll handle the details. For now, enjoy the rest of your night." She turned to leave, but paused. "Mr. Alvarez, Miss Alvarez, thank you for sharing your gift with us." She walked away, her heels clicking on the floor. Marcus and Lily turned to Daniel. "When do we start?" Lily asked. Daniel glanced at his watch. "We can meet next week to plan. Does Tuesday afternoon work?" Marcus agreed. Daniel gave Lily a small folder with information. "This is yours," he said. She held it reverently as if it were a treasure. As the gala wound down, Marcus and Lily made their way out of the grand hall. The sounds of laughter and music still drifted behind them. They descended the marble steps into the cool night air.
Ow.
Lily paused at the entrance and looked back at the building. "I'll never forget this night," she said softly. Marcus nodded, putting an arm around her shoulders. "Neither will I." It was more than a performance, it was a beginning. He smiled down at her. "And the best part is, we get to keep making music together." Lily leaned against him, her head resting on his shoulder. "Can we come back next year?" she asked. Marcus laughed. "With more stories to tell, we surely can." They walked toward the street, their figures outlined by the soft glow of the lobby lights behind them. In the taxi on the way home, Lily held the folder on her lap and stared out the window at passing city lights. Marcus watched her in the rearview mirror, feeling a deep sense of hope. He thought of the journey ahead, teaching children, performing new pieces, sharing music with others. He felt renewed purpose. When they arrived home, the old upright piano stood silent in their living room. Lily ran to it and pressed a few keys. A warm tone filled the room. Marcus smiled and joined her at the bench. Together, they began to explore new melodies inspired by the night's adventure. As they played, Marcus whispered, "This is just the start." Lily nodded, her small hands dancing across the keys. The music they created that night would live on in their hearts, growing and evolving with every note. And so under the lamplight of their home, father and daughter crafted the next chapter of their musical story, filled with promise and the joy of discovery. The weeks that followed felt like a dream come true. Every Tuesday afternoon, Marcus and Lily walked hand in hand into the bright classroom at the community center. The room was modest plain walls, a few chairs, and two pianos side by side, but to them it was a world of possibility. Marcus greeted each child by name. There was Mateo, who tapped his foot in time without even realizing it. Aisha, who loved to play soft lullabies, and Jamal, whose fingers flew over the keys like rain on a window. Lily stood next to her father, her small frame glowing with pride. On the first day, Marcus watched as Lily showed Aisha how to position her fingers on the keys. He saw the look of wonder in Aisha's eyes when she heard her own melody for the first time. Lily beamed, guiding her gently. Marcus felt a familiar spark. This was why he had given up the stage. Yet here he was, back in the world of teaching and performing, all at once. Each lesson began with a simple greeting. "Hello, everyone," and a short warm-up exercise. Lily led the children in finger stretches, just like he had shown her when she was a beginner. Then they moved on to scales and simple songs. Marcus taught them about rhythm, and Lily shared stories of her own practice sessions. The children listened eagerly, their eyes shining. After each class, the children's parents waited in the lobby, admiring the progress. Some whispered about how quickly their kids learned under this unusual Pura father who had once played grand halls, and his daughter who had the soul of a musician. Marcus sometimes caught a parent's eye and offered a small, humble smile. He thought of the gala night and how far they had come. Outside of teaching, Marcus and Lily continued to practice at home. The old upright piano in their living room became a place of discovery. Some evenings, Marcus brought home sheet music he found at a second-hand store, a sonata by Beethoven, or a folk tune from another country. Lily tried each new piece with her father's encouragement. Slowly, they built a repertoire of music that was uniquely theirs. A month after the gala, Sterling Enterprises invited them back for a special recital. The community center's small stage was set up with chairs and a modest sound system. The children they taught performed first, timid. At first, but growing confident as they played, parents cheered, and Marcus and Lily watched from the wings, tears in their eyes. Seeing the children succeed reminded them of their own journey. When it was their turn, Lily and Marcus walked on stage. Lily sat at the piano and gestured to her father to stand beside her. She played the song they had improvised at the gala, "Peace Born from Love and Courage." Marcus joined her for the final section. The melody was sweeter now, filled with the memory of each child's laughter, each note of their practice, and the applause that had first greeted them. When the last note faded, the audience stood and applauded. Some held up phones to record, but most simply clapped, moved by the beauty and sincerity of the moment. Lily's cheeks glowed as she looked at her father. He lifted her hand, and together they bowed. Afterward, Victoria Sterling approached them again, her eyes bright with emotion. "You both did beautifully," she said. "Your song holds more meaning now that I know the children behind it." She paused. "I have one more idea. Would you consider recording a simple album, just piano duets and some of the children's favorite pieces to help fund our outreach program?" Marcus felt a rush of gratitude. He looked at Lily, who nodded eagerly. "We'd love to," he answered. In the weeks that followed, they spent Saturdays in a small recording studio that Sterling Enterprises arranged. Marcus wore headphones and guided Lily through each take, teaching her how to listen for small details, a too loud chord, a wobbly rhythm. Lily responded with maturity, adjusting her playing until each track felt just right. The children's recordings were woven in between, laughter and small applause captured at the end of each song. When the album was released online, it carried a simple title, Keys of Hope. Proceeds supported the music outreach program and bought new instruments for schools in need. Marcus saw posts on social media from people who had discovered the album, a nurse in a distant city, a retiree learning piano for the first time, a student who had almost given up on music but found new inspiration. Marcus felt a deep sense of purpose. At home, life settled into a comforting rhythm. Mornings began with Lily's piano practice before school, and Marcus prepared lesson plans for the afternoon class. Evenings were spent at their upright piano, sometimes tackling a challenging concerto, sometimes improvising new melodies. They celebrated small victories, Lily mastering a tricky measure, Marcus composing a short piece for the children's recital. One evening, after a long day, Lily leaned against her father as he closed the piano lid. "Dad," she said softly, "do you ever miss playing on big stages?" Marcus considered the question. He remembered the hush of the concert halls, the weight of expectation, the thrill of applause. He also remembered the joy of teaching Lily and the smiles of the children. He looked at her and smiled. "I loved those stages once," he said, "but nothing compares to sharing music with you and our students." Lily's eyes shone with understanding. She hugged him tightly. "I love it too." Months passed, and the outreach program grew. New volunteers joined, more children signed up, and Sterling Enterprises expanded funding to include other towns. Marcus and Lily traveled to nearby communities, teaching one-day workshops in school gyms and libraries. Everywhere they went, they met eager faces ready to learn. At each workshop, Marcus began with a simple introduction. "I'm Marcus, and this is my daughter Lily." He spoke quietly, but clearly, sharing their story of a single father, a young daughter, a moment of laughter in a lobby, and the music that changed everything. He saw tears or smiles in the audience, and he knew their story resonated. A year, the program celebrated its anniversary with a gala, much like the one where it all began. This time, Marcus and Lily performed first, their music opening the evening. Then, the children followed, playing pieces they had learned. Parents and guests watched proudly. Victoria Sterling gave a speech sharing how a simple laugh had transformed into a movement of hope through music. When the gala ended, Marcus and Lily returned home, tired but exhilarated. They sat at their upright piano, wearing the same clothes. From the evening, Lily stretched her fingers and said, "Let's play something for us." Marcus nodded and began a soft chord. Lily joined, and together they improvised a gentle lullaby. As the melody drifted through their living room, Marcus thought about the journey, the fear in the lobby, the laughter that cut through nerves, the silence that followed the first note, and the applause that changed their lives. He thought of the faces of the children, the kindness of strangers, and the faith of a CEO who saw beyond appearances. He closed his eyes and let the music flow, each note a memory of how far they had come. Lily leaned against him, her small hand in his. The melody wove a tapestry of hope, love, and resilience. When the last note faded, they sat in silence, the moment holding them. Lily looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Dad." Marcus kissed her forehead. "Thank you, Lily," he replied, for every note. In the quiet of their home, with the piano resting between them, father and daughter knew this was only the beginning. Their music would carry on in every corner they taught, every heart they touched, and every new melody they created together. And so, under the soft glow of their living room lamp, they closed the day with a simple truth. Music, when shared with love, could change the world.